Lights, camera, action.
Welcome to Mixtake, a World Outspoken podcast. As film, television, and entertainment are influenced by the mixing of cultures and heritages in the United States, we are here to discuss, celebrate, and represent.
That's right.
I'm Doni Alicea.
And I am Robert Rivera. In this episode, we're going to be talking about this little movie franchise that you may have never heard of before called Avatar.
Yeah, it's really kind of obscure, kind of indie.
Yeah. So for the few that have seen it, hopefully you'll get a lot out of this episode. Well, without further ado, let's start off with some quick takes. Doni, what's your quick take on this?
Thanks for asking, Rob. Okay,
No problem.
My quick take, and I actually wrote it down. So my quick take is this. Avatar is collectively one of the most beautiful and most tragic stories. Love, life, war, greed, triumph, failure, hope, loss. These films truly have it all. And the question remains, will the Na'vi, which is the native kind of people that the stories are based on, will they survive the Sky People? Rob, what's your quick take?
My quick take is this. It's interesting to see these concepts of colonialism, injustice, and navigating culture all wrapped up in a nice little package, nice little pop culture package for everyone to be able to consume and understand.
Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to have an opinion about something when it's kind of outside of normal conversations. It's like these mythical creatures in a mythical place and a faraway planet. Then you can be like, oh, that's so right or wrong, or, that's a tragedy. Whereas the close to home things that we'll get into later on in the show might not be as quick to kind of have an opinion about or be judgmental even about, or, whatever it is. So we'll talk more as the show goes on. But for now, let's press rewind on this episode of Mixtape. So, Rob, how did you get drawn into the Avatar movies?
Well, that's a really great question. James Cameron was already a name that I was familiar with. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If you go back, he was already kind of a fixture in pop culture. Of course, he directed The Terminator. He directed Ridley Scott's sequel to Alien called Aliens. Mm-hmm. And he did The Abyss, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, True Lies. You remember that one?
What's True Lies about?
That's Schwarzenegger and is it Tom Arnold? I want to say it's Tom Arnold and Jamie Lee Curtis.
From Roseanne, Tom Arnold?
Correct. And Schwarzenegger was an undercover agent and his wife Jamie Lee Curtis was oblivious to this.
Oh, it rings a bell now. Okay, yeah. Oh my goodness,
she dances in it.
I probably literally haven't seen it since it came out in 1994. He
also did another little movie called Titanic.
Oh, wow.
And Titanic, interestingly enough, is number 9 all-time domestic in the domestic box office and number 4 worldwide.
Yeah.
All time, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So Avatar intrigued me as a science fiction film that was not already attached to an already existing or known property. This wasn't an extension of Star Wars or Star Trek or any other sci-fi world. This was a brand new, we're starting from scratch, and I think that intrigued me. To just step in cold and say, let me understand and learn this world with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. Not only that, but I think the trailers drew me in. It looked colorful, looked beautiful, and it in that way it did not disappoint.
Yeah.
How about you? What was it that drew you into Avatar?
Oh my goodness. I think it was the CGI of it. The fact that they created an entire world using technology, and the world that they created was gorgeous. I remember one of the trailers is this a clip from this scene where Jake is running through the forest at night, and every time his foot landed on the tree branch, like it was lighting up. And I was like, oh my goodness, this looks incredible. This world that they took so much time to painstakingly create something that was unique, that had I had never seen anything like that before. Of course, we'd seen great film and some like cool like Pixar animations and stuff like that, but never anything to this level.
Rarely after a movie do I say, I would love to go there, but after seeing Pandora,
oh my goodness,
I want to interact with that world. I want to touch
the Hallelujah Mountains.
Yeah, travel up to Hallelujah Mountains, whatever. But yeah, I want to step on the ground and it lights up.
Oh my goodness, yes. I don't want to fight those Black Panther cat looking.
Oh my goodness.
Those look kind of ferocious. So I'll leave that, but yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think like General Courage, Colonel, I'm sorry, Colonel, I think it was Courage.
Yeah.
Like he said, everything out there is trying to kill you.
Oh my goodness.
It's true.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. So that was my first interaction. Now, like the Na'vi, let's enjoy the world of Pandora and press play on this episode of Mixtape.
Well, James Cameron was not just a household name. Well, I don't know if he was a household name, but his movies definitely left an imprint in our culture. Mm-hmm. But James Cameron is also no stranger to box office success. I think that we can all agree that he's been unique in that his success with Avatar was not the result of adding on to a previous franchise. If you look at like some of those top selling movie or the top grossing box office hits, they're like Star Wars, Avengers, even like Barbie is building off of a pre-existing property that we're excited to see come to the big screen. Avatar really just came out of nowhere. So that to me, it blows my mind. I mean, the numbers are wild to me domestically. So just here in the United States, Avatar ranks number 4, grossing about $785 million. Avatar 2 is number 7, grossing about $684 million. Combined, those two movies have made $1.47 billion in the United States. The other big movies, like I said, number 1 is The Force Awakens. Number 2 is Endgame. Number 3 is Spider-Man No Way Home. Number 5, Maverick. That's building off of the success of Top Gun, right? Number 6, Black Panther, which, although it's still part of that Marvel brand.
Yeah.
And so Avatar really kind of defying the odds in this. Worldwide, it's even more incredible to me. Avatar's the number 1 all-time best-selling or whatever, highest-grossing box office success at $2.9 billion. And Avatar 2 is number 3 at $2.3 billion. Together, that's $5.24 billion this franchise has made in 2 movies.
That's like the national GDP of like small countries.
Right, exactly.
in a decade.
And so number 2, there's Endgame, again, to bring that point out. Let me ask you, so as we're going through all these numbers, this is not an easy one to answer.
Yeah.
But I think that you are smart enough to break this down for us. Why do you think these movies are so successful?
I'm not smart enough, because that's such a great question. It is what is it about these films that kind of bolsters them to out of the stratosphere? I think maybe that it comes down to one simple point, maybe an easy one. It's like, what's the common denominator between amongst these films? Maybe it's Zoe Saldana.
Oh,
Maybe she's,
I'm listening.
Maybe she's kind of the standout individual who kind of brings something, really unique and cool and awesome to the screen for us and invites us in a unique way.
Why do you mention her name in particular?
Well, because she's in Avatar. She's in Avatar: The Way of the Water, and she's in Endgame, where she plays Gamora. So she is a being in all three of the films. She's blue in Avatar and the Way of the Avatar: The Way of the Water, and then she's green when she plays Gamora. So she is kind of this unique individual that is kind of a standout, I would say, in all three of the films. So maybe something to do with
you add her to the movie and you're going to get box office success.
Listen, Hollywood, hire Zoe Saldana for your next film. You know what I mean? Another thing I would point out, especially about the first film, is actually both films were released in December. So I know sometimes these blockbuster movies, they pick either summer or kind of the end of the year. Could be release date. Although Endgame came out in April, so not necessarily just that it was the end of the year, but could have had something to do with it.
Do you think they overthink that sometimes? Like, I feel like we've had huge hits all different types of the year. Just like, give us a good movie.
It's true. I don't know. I mean, for these films, again, amongst the three that are the top grossing, 2 in December, 1 in April, maybe there is something to timing. Yep. People are off of school and work. Yeah. It's the holidays. You're looking for something to do. Some people don't have plans for the holidays, and so you're like, what am I going to do? I don't know. Maybe it's something to do with that.
Sure.
And then the other thing to note, especially again about the first film, is that it didn't release in a year. Some years, the films were released weren't maybe that great, or the storytelling wasn't that powerful. So it's like, well, if I'm going to go to the theater, I'm going to go. And then if I'm going to go again, well, that movie was so good and there's really nothing else out, so I'll just go and watch it again. Or, my friends are going and I didn't get to go with them, so yeah, sure, I'll see it a third time, or whatever. But this year in 2009, there were actually some really stellar films that were released. So Slumdog Millionaire came out that year and actually won a slew of Oscars. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, starring Brad Pitt, came out that year. The Dark Knight, which I know Batman is one of your favorites, and maybe is probably one of mine too, for sure. But it came out amongst a lot of other really good films that year. So is it that I don't think it was that there weren't other things to see. I think it was just that strong of a story.
But you say that, and there isn't. Like this year in particular, you had a lot of huge franchises battling against each other. And some of them, like Mission Impossible, underperformed, going up against Oppenheimer and Barbie. And
you're absolutely right.
It felt like there were a lot of movies. So Guardians of the Galaxy comes out, and you have Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. You have all these movies kind of overlapping. One ends, another one begins, and they're going back and forth. Transformers becomes kind of a little bit of a casualty of all that.
You're absolutely.
The Flash had its own problems, but I think the other movies releasing didn't help that situation. Mm-hmm. So these movies are great, like as you said, but they're not box office smash. And not to mention Dark Knight, I believe, came out in the summer.
Oh, did it really?
Yeah.
I believe that. Summer hit.
I believe it did.
A blockbuster hit. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, so maybe, again, the combination of something, again, you're right. Like, and there's not a really long list in 2009. There are some stellar films, but, kind of after that, the coolest other film was like Tropic Thunder. I was like, who doesn't love a good Jack Black and Adam Sandler? It was like all the funny people lined up in one film. If you haven't seen it, it's a good one, Tropic Thunder. And then Wall-E for the kids, was
for the kids, yeah.
Is it one of your faves? It's pretty good. I don't mind it.
It's okay.
But yes, so maybe there's some combination of, these things is what really kind of catapulted Avatar, and the fact that it did it twice. So it didn't do it in just 2009, but then it did it again with Avatar: The Way of the Water. I was hopeful. I was like, man, I hope the second film is as successful as the first and gets that, that same love from moviegoers. And boy, did people show up.
it needed it a lot more too. I think the budget was way higher, and Cameron was throwing out these high numbers of how much it needed to make in order to break even, and it seemed wild. I like those points. Those are all good. I think also he did a great job appealing to the masses in this movie. It isn't like this really heady, crazy movie. Like it gets deep thematically, but doesn't try to speak over you in any way. Everything is pretty much common language. Everyone's just speaking pretty casually, trying to push forth that plot. One other thing that I'll say is don't underestimate the power of 3D. I don't know if you saw it in 3D. I saw only the first one in 3D. I don't know why I didn't watch the second one, but it was, to me, the best 3D movie I've seen.
Really?
Ever.
Oh, wow.
Most of the time, you walk in, it's like, there's a couple of moments where the 3D works.
Yeah.
But with things floating around and glowing, and I thought it worked really well. And I also did it because I heard a lot of people saying, oh, this is a must-see movie in 3D. And 3D prices are a lot higher.
Yeah.
Right, than the regular ticket. So I think that helped it out a lot. I'm sure it helped out Way of Water as well. But it had
the Way of Water 3D. Did they offer it?
Yeah. They were going to offer them all in 3D.
That's wild. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
So, when I think about movies like The Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, I think, especially when I think of Lord of the Rings, let me step back and just say Lord of the Rings.
Sure.
I look at it and I say it has great acting, it has great special effects, great music, and a great script. Great casting. And
costume design, location selections.
Yeah.
There's so much, but yes.
Yeah. This movie is pretty much fabricated, I think, on a computer.
Yeah.
But if you think about the music of the late, great James Horner, who actually passed away in between the movies. I think he died tragically.
Oh, no.
But he composed like Braveheart, Aliens, An American Tail. Do you remember Fievel, the little mouse with the red? Did he have a red hat?
I don't remember.
No? You got to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s or something. You ever see the movie Apocalypto? That's I think Mel Gibson directed.
Is it?
It's
I don't think I've seen it.
It's either like Aztec or Mayan. I can't remember.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about, but I haven't seen it.
He scored that, and of course he scored Titanic.
Oh,
which
man.
Iconic soundtrack.
And so is Braveheart. Braveheart is gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Definitely. But the music for this movie is more unique. I can still hear some of the melodies that he uses and some of the other, kind of creeping in.
Yeah.
But some of the rhythmic sounds and and using the voices, and I love it. I'll listen to that soundtrack.
Of Avatar?
Yeah, just like when I'm reading or writing or doing something, studying.
Interesting. You know what's wild? I cannot tell you a single note from either film. I'm sure, it impacts you as a viewer, but I don't remember any of the song selections.
All right, I'll play you some after we finish recording here, and you'll say,
okay,
yeah, I recognize that.
Okay,
but the visuals are stunning, as you've already mentioned. That the special effects are great, and the story is relatable. Yeah, people will say this is Pocahontas in space or Ferngully in space or whatever. That's fine. I don't care. That's fine. But he's telling it in a fresh new way, in a fresh new context. And to me, it works. And I think all of those things mixed together, probably also, like you mentioned, when it came out, the time of the year, the other movies it's competing against, all those things it's a perfect storm. I think The Way of Water benefited from the success of the first movie, as people are, even though there's such a huge gap, people are curious, like, oh, he's coming back to this thing? I got to check this thing out.
Absolutely. And then you've got to bring the kids now, and because, it's how many years later? 13, something like that. So
is that how many years it was in between? Yeah, right? It was something wild like that. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of themes in this story. Are there any particular themes that kind of stick out to you as you think about about Avatar?
Yeah, I think some of the themes, and maybe I can just start with one theme and then we can just kind of chat about it if that's cool. But I think the theme, and you gave me the word for it, colonialism. Yeah. So you have this this group of individuals. There's scientists, and then they kind of hire hired guns to come in and kind of keep them safe because, again, everything in Pandora is trying to kill you. So you have, these individuals that are trying to mine the planet. So for those that haven't seen it, no spoilers, but there's individuals that are trying to kind of mine the planet.
Everybody has seen this.
According to the statistics.
Yeah, it made, what did I say? How many billions? All right, go ahead.
Yeah. As you search for the billion, 6 billion, 4 billion, something
$5 billion combined, yeah.
$100 billion. They're trying to mine for this really lucrative substance that's only found on Pandora. And so
Unobtainium.
Is that what it's called?
Unobtainium.
Serious?
Yeah.
Like it's unobtainable. Unobtainium.
Unobtainium, yeah.
That's so interesting. Anyway. So they're trying to mine for unobtainium, and these individuals see it as their right to go out and dig for this substance, even though there's a native people who are essentially their enemies, and there are individual scientists that are trying to build relations and all that stuff, but
they're trying to avoid a war. They're trying to keep whatever regulations.
Keep the peace.
Yeah.
And learn. But the military side and the business side, they're like, just get this stuff already. And here's the gold mine of it. And so this, kind of this sense of the bigger, badder, more militant, more armed individuals coming in and stomping on the little guy, essentially. And where it gets to the point of, are they going to eradicate these people? And it's very close to the Indigenous American, or if you're Canadian, First Nations people story of our country. The Pilgrims, the English, the French, the Spaniards coming in to a land that's already occupied by natives and bullying their way onto the land, which is kind of the Avatar, the Way of Water, the second story. So the first one is about getting something there, unobtainium. The second story is our planet is dying and we need a new spot. Yeah. So colonialism, what are your thoughts about, that theme in the films?
Yeah, it is interesting. I think I wrote this down so I wouldn't forget, but the organization is called the RDA, the Resources Development Administration. Their motto is building tomorrow. Unfortunately, they're building tomorrow
on top of
in a different world.
Yeah.
But they're a huge organization. You can tell in the movie they've got their machinery, their vehicles, their all of this. It seems like they have so many resources already. Mm-hmm. So it's just the rich trying to get richer. But you're right. Then there's a survival. They're looking ahead. And I think with that idea, you can also kind of bring in this idea of taking care of our own planet as a cautionary tale, saying Earth is dying, so we've got to go to another planet. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's forcing this idea of colonialism. The scientists are brought in to kind of make peace, and the idea is that they come up with an agreement to obtain the unobtainium. Mm-hmm. But Jake Sully realizes pretty quickly that these people are going to give up nothing. You're right. It reminds me a lot of the Black Hills in South Dakota, or this is a story, honestly, that is not confined to the United States, but around the world when it comes to colonialism. You see something that you want in another place, you take, maybe you try to work with the indigenous population, but realize, nobody is going to let you come into their home and just take freely. Yeah. And so what do? You fight, and you catch them off guard, and you take things by force. This story, though, kind of gives us what we want in the sense of it'd be like if the natives were able to fight off
Yes, if the Davids can beat the Goliaths,
Yeah.
if they can stand under the yoke that's placed on them and still like be victorious.
Yeah. Yep.
It's definitely the little guy wins type of story.
Definitely. I saw some other great themes, and I don't know if you had anything else to say about colonialism, but
No, yeah, we can move on.
yeah, just some different cross-cultural type things going on. When Jake Sully, I love the line that he gives when he's kind of infiltrating the tribe, and Neytiri's trying to teach him the way, and she said, unfortunately, you can't fill a cup that's already full, and he says it's hard. She said it's hard to fill a cup that's already full, and he said my cup is empty. Trust me. And I love that because when you approach another culture, that's kind of how you have to approach it. Not saying, here, let me show you how to live your life. Rather, what can I learn?
Yeah.
And we don't see that a lot. We see, if you think about even like missionaries, well-intentioned, but they go in and they're preaching they're not just preaching the gospel, but they're actually preaching their culture as well.
Oh my goodness, Rob. I have such a problem with cultural superiority because I feel like the Latino culture is the best. like we do family right, we do food right, we do dancing right, we do fun right, like we just do life right. And sometimes like I'll come into contact with people from other cultures and they're very like standoffish or closed, and I'm like, girl, smile, like life is beautiful, the sun is out today, like I just get so like enjoy things, like everything doesn't have to be so serious or so sad or whatever, but so sometimes a certain culture can treat your neighbors a certain type of way and just be a little bit more standoffish and a little bit more like, I'm over here doing my thing and you're over there doing your thing, and it can in some ways feel like, even though it's not true, and cerebrally and mentally, I know that cultures are just different. The way people do life is just different. But again, sometimes I am guilty of cultural superiority and being like, we just do the thing. We be doing the thing.
Yeah, definitely.
You don't feel that way?
Yeah. I have to check myself every single day. I feel superior to... No, I'm just kidding.
You wild. Oh, boy.
No.
Yes, but it is true. The cross-cultural element was actually really beautiful, especially in part 2 when you see his kids are part sky people. And so then they go...
That mestizo, right?
Oh, man, it was actually really beautiful.
5-fingered, or 4, they say 4-fingered, 4 fingers.
Yeah, but the kids had 5, I think, right?
Well,
because they were human?
I think they're saying 4 fingers and a thumb, but yeah.
Oh.
Because they're like, look, 4 fingers.
But it was actually really cool to see them with the sea people, and their interactions, and even, I don't know, having to cross those barriers as a different being going into a different culture, because even though they were both native to the planet, they weren't native to their area. So one was forest people and then the other was ocean people, and how they lived and their body types and everything was just different. So seeing that interaction play out was also pretty cool.
Yeah, the Metcaina tribe are the water people, and that's Jake Sully kind of took what he learned in the first movie and then helped his kids kind of understand that in the second movie. He didn't really teach them, but he just said...
Guided.
He said, guys, figure this out. Don't slow them down.
Yeah.
There's a lot, though, thematically, even family-wise, being hard on his kids. And the being hard on his kids, I couldn't help but wonder, is that an American thing that he brought to the tribe? Like, Neytiri was like, you're too hard. This is not, this is not your troop. This is, or whatever she said, this is your family.
Yeah. But I understood when he was like, she said that, and then he's like, I thought we lost them. And, as a parent, sometimes, like, if your kid is missing, you're, like, freaking out, and then you find them, and you hug them, and then you want to beat them. It's like, he had that moment of, like, relief that they're okay, but oh my goodness, how could you? You deserve, a placatao because what in the world is going on here?
I was also thinking that the movie gave me, at least the first movie gave me some Last Samurai vibes.
Okay.
You see Last Samurai, where the samurai are trying to preserve their way of life, but Japan is trying to step into the modern era, so they bring in an American general to train their military, but the samurai kind of take their last stand.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is in it.
Yeah, I see that.
And so I saw some of that. Also, I found it interesting. Like Neytiri, though, she can't accept outsiders. So when Spider comes into plays with the kids and all that, she'll never accept him as part of her tribe or anything because he's a human, and that ends up really hurting her at the ending when she uses him to get to Quaritch. And she puts the knife to his throat, and then but that has to stick in Spider's head, and then he ends up showing pity and mercy on his cloned father, even though he shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Or not cloned, but
kind of.
Avatar.
Cloned.
Yeah.
It is Avatar.
Whatever.
Yeah. What's interesting about Neytiri is that you're right. She didn't accept Spider, even though she marries a sky person and then has offspring that are part sky people.
He didn't look that way, so maybe that was the thing. Like she couldn't get over
the physical.
Yeah.
You think? Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, she's shallow, huh?
I don't know about that. I don't know. I mean, obviously, she fell in love with Jake.
I mean, Spider, I thought he adapted well, too, to the culture. He grew up on Pandora.
Yeah.
As an orphan.
Yeah. As a baby.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the
whole movie I was saying, who's mom?
Oh, yeah.
Who's the mom?
Maybe she died, too. I don't know. We never know.
Tragic.
Kind of.
I also like the theme of I see you. Just like seeing a person for who they truly are, and just in a world where we want to be seen.
Oh, man.
We want to know that people care, that is a huge part of their culture. Is like, I see you.
Yeah, that was actually really beautiful. I thought the same thing.
Tearing up.
What a wonderful greeting. And like you said, what a wonderful way to like respect those around you. Any other themes that stood out to you in the films?
Just the only last thing that I'll say is just the idea of destiny. Jake is only there because his brother died, right? And so he's got this disability. He lost the use of his legs, and he's hoping for some sort of redemption. He doesn't have anything back home. He jumps in. Because his brother was a twin. The DNA works. He can use his brother's avatar, and it works beautifully. But his purpose, and he thought his purpose was there to help this organization, the RDA. But he falls in love with the tribe, and at the end of the day, that's what saved that tribe was Jake Sully. Because of his military background, because of his knowledge of what this organization was trying to accomplish, he was able to help and to fight. And he, in that way, there's a little bit of a messianic vibe of becoming like us and then saving us.
Man, that's awesome.
So,
I didn't even think about that. That's really cool and very true. One other thing I think I would say a theme that stood out was the Grace kind of character, the doctor in the first film.
Yeah.
And then she has the offspring that's kind of like the connection to Ewa in the second film. Her daughter or her offspring is like the physical manifestation.
Kitty.
Yeah.
Kitty.
And this recent time in preparation for this recording, watching the second film, her character just really stood out to me as kind of this individual who like nurtured the universe around her, all the living beings. Even there's a scene where she's like laying in the ocean and just looking at the sand. And kids walk up to her and they're like, weirdo. Like,
Yeah.
you're just looking at the sand. And she's like, what? You know, like, of course. So I just loved, kind of hearkening back to what you said earlier in the episode. In these films, people were basically killing the earth, much like people are killing the earth now, and farming another planet, thinking that, you know, I don't know what they're thinking, but this idea of like caring for our planet and loving and nurturing our planet was, you know, just kind of a really cool, it was really beautiful to see them manifest that through a particular character that really loved the beings and the everything around her. It was really cool.
There seems to be like this idea of destiny though floating around her as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where like there's something special about her.
Yeah.
She lays in the grass and the grass kind of just lays out for her, and the little
pulses,
little things, those little jellyfish thing are coming down, and she's like, I'm doing that thing again, aren't I? Her siblings struggle to breathe, you know, to hold their breath, and they're like, where's Kitty? She's underwater, smiling, just enjoying. So, yeah, by the way, I think introducing children, first of all, the children are really cute.
They are really cute.
And I love that aspect of it, because the first movie is pretty much you're dealing all adults, right?
Yeah.
So this, he gave us just something a little bit different, an adventure of kids.
And a family.
A family, yeah.
So were there other characters that, you know, we could learn some lessons from?
Oh, yeah, I think I mentioned some of them already, but I appreciate Neytiri as well. I noticed she had that flaw that I mentioned, but she also was a great discipler, if you will, or mentor, or whatever, instructor. I would say like a mentor, discipler, because she not only taught Jake the skills, but the culture and
the language.
And he developed a love. Yeah. She took it too far with him. I mean, you should never cross those lines with your mentor. I'll just say that right now. You know, I think too far. Do not intertwine your tail with your mentor. Too far.
Good call. Good call. That's a good one. That's some good mentoring advice right there.
Any standouts to you?
Man, I really admired Neytiri, her love for her people. There's a point in the second film where they have to choose to, you know, leave the forest and go to the ocean people and kind of try to hide to save the forest people, if you will. And man, her, you know, she's just like, oh, my dad gave me this bow and he told me to protect my people. And her love for her land and her people was absolutely beautiful. It's a lot how I feel oddly in Chicago. Like, I feel like this is my home, my people. Yes, I'm a Latina, but even maybe before I'm a Latina, I'm a Chicagoan, like through and through. And so I'm so connected to our streets and our blocks and our neighborhood and our stores and, you know, our skyline and just everything about this place, our sports teams. So
your Instagram proves all of this.
Truth. So I really admire her connection, I would say, to her people, and even more than her people is her land as well.
One other person I was going to point out was Loak, the son, kind of the hard-headed son.
Oh my goodness, he did
always,
everything. School of Hard Knocks.
Yes.
He is the first student. Yes.
Oh man, he's just a little bit too ambitious for his parents' liking, but
yeah,
he gets kind of pranked.
Oh yeah,
you know, and very dangerous one. I mean, he almost died. He would have died if not for the Tulkun. I think the Tulkun was his name, Payakan.
Yeah,
the Tulkun Payakan, who was an outcast himself, a big whale-looking creature. But Loak took time to understand and learn. He connected his tail and learned a lot about a lot of
In a good way.
a lot of tail connecting. I'm trying to decide like when is it okay, when's it appropriate, when's it inappropriate, and
That was a
I
good
try not
one.
to think too hard about it because those guys be locking tails with anything.
Yeah. They were all kinds of animals.
Yeah,
Kind
yeah, like his wife, like, don't lock tails with me after you lock tails with that whale. Well, no, Loak doesn't have a wife, but one day when he does, but Loak just giving kind of, first of all, giving the benefit of the doubt to Payakan, and then advocating for him on his behalf to the tribe, even though people are like, no, he's an outcast. He murdered. Loak is trying to give context, like there's more to the story. And then at the end of the story, of course, what happens? Loak comes to the rescue, and so not to say so that you get something out of people, but that he believed I think that even though he was kind of a knucklehead son, he believed the best in others, and I think he learned in a lot of ways he was like his father, and maybe his father struggled with that. Like you struggle with the ones that are most like you. Sometimes that's a sibling, or you're just like you're a parent or whatever. But
Yeah.
any others for you?
No, I think that's it. I think we can take a moment to look into the future as we press fast forward on this episode of Mixed Take.
All right. Donnie, we talked about some important themes in the Avatar series, but we know that Cameron, I think he said, I think he has 43 more movies that he has, I forget, like maybe 3 or 4.
Really? Okay, that matters.
Yeah, that was the idea. I think maybe it's 2 or 3 more. I forget exactly what it is. It's a weird number.
Okay.
Regardless, what themes would you like to see Avatar flesh out moving forward? Like, this is a big world. I've heard that it's teased that there might be like a fire people. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't really love to live on those rumors, so I'm just going to whatever. But we're not talking about plot. We're talking about themes. What themes would you like to see?
I think the biggest theme that I would really love to see is the development of a character, and maybe this is, further down in the films, but a character that is kind of the Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King Jr. type of character that's thinking about building peace between these two groups of people, in like a cool, like thinking about peace in a new way, in a different way, thinking about resolution to conflict in a unique, from a unique angle or a different perspective. And I say that because, there are some blueprints to peace. Again, we have the Nelson Mandelas and the MLKs. We've got some, really amazing people that have blessed our world and our history books with unique approaches to peace. And so I know that, making a good movie, often there's conflict, and in these films particularly, that conflict looks very action oriented and heavy machinery and helicopters and all that good stuff. But at some point, it would be really cool to have some peace-oriented person, and maybe that's Kitty, or a character like hers, but just somebody that kind of brings that aspect to the story.
Yeah.
How about you?
I don't know how they can do this. I don't know what the time jumps are going to look like. I do know that the RDA was able to build, they said, buildings very quickly with their technology. I'm not saying that this would be fun, but it would be interesting to tackle if there were some human populations that were able to settle on Pandora. And if that happened, what would it look like? Either they maybe they're enslaved or oppressed, or maybe they enslave or oppress some of the Na'vi or whatever, and just kind of navigating that, and kind of going off of what you said with MLK and Nelson Mandela, and seeing, is there a peaceful resolution where they can all coexist? I would like this to see the series go in a positive direction, even as unrealistic as that seems.
Yeah.
As we know, our world is a very complex place, and peace is something that we take for granted when we enjoy it. So, but I am a romantic at heart, so I would like to see the series go in a direction of hope. And yeah, like the humans and Navi living happily ever after, intertwining tales and all.
Man, I'm looking up this show on HBO. Okay, shoot, maybe you can help me with the name of it. It's a show about this world that people can pay to go into, and in this world there's kind of AI, like kind of robot beings, but they look like people. And in the world they can do anything they want. So it's set in like a Western type of Westworld.
It is Westworld? I was going to say Westworld, but I was like, that's one of your favorite shows.
Oh my word. Obviously, it's been a while since I've seen it. Okay, so this kind of, as you were talking about having settlers and all that stuff, I'm like, ooh, it kind of could have that Westworld vibe where it's kind of these different beings. In Westworld, you have people, and then you have they're really robots. Robots? They're artificial beings. Anyway, watch Westworld. It's very interesting. But you kind of have these two opposing, if you will, groups of beings, where in Avatar it's kind of the same. So, man, it would be so interesting for Avatar to kind of take that type of a route or twist. Interesting. All right. Well, I think it is time to press pause and, like Asela, reflect on points that have stuck out to us or some key takeaways. So, Rob, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
That's a really great question. I think my final thoughts would be I am looking forward to future Avatar movies for the reasons that we've discussed. Seeing thoughtful, kind of layered storytelling with high quality special effects and music, and even with the passing of James Horner, Avatar 3 still, like, you still get that feel of you get that great score. So just kind of I'm looking forward to delving deeper into some rich themes in this immersive world, in a place that I would love to visit someday. I know I can't because it's unless it's like the Westworld thing or whatever.
Or maybe it is a planet somewhere, and we'll stumble upon it at some
maybe
point.
It is. Maybe that's it. So that's really my final thoughts. I appreciate how he has been able to. It's not super preachy. I think it's just right where it needs to be.
Yeah.
Bringing up a lot of themes. I mean, we could have stepped back and drawn out so many more themes.
Oh my goodness. Global warming and war and depression and racism and classism and bigotry. Oh, there's so many themes in the film. It's tough.
Pride and sacrifice and there's so many different things. I mean, we said which characters kind of stick out to us, but I think we could easily take about 10 to 15 of those characters and talk for a long time about the themes and how they're fleshed out. Yeah. So, yeah. How about you?
I would just say I hope that, what's really cool about storytelling like this is, like you said, you can put some real truths out there that are much easier a pill to swallow in this mode or platform than in watching CNN or Fox News or NBC or wherever you get your news from. I think there's a lot of lessons that we can take from the not be in the sky people and how they interact with one another. Like we mentioned, issues related to global warming, issues related to racism, issues related to so many other things. What's one, if we go and watch the next movie thinking, what's one thing I can do to make a difference?
Yeah.
In my house, on my block, at my job, at your church, wherever, what can we do? Should we start recycling? Maybe, as a family, or should we start composting to be more friendly to our world, or being more cognizant of what we're buying, or, being less consumer oriented in that regard? Or are we looking out for our neighbors in Chicago right now? At the time we're recording, there is an influx of immigrants coming from South America, and there is essentially a crisis of where these individuals will be placed. So a month ago, it was about 1,500 people. Today, it's about 11,000 people, with a couple thousand more on the way. And a lot of these individuals are displaced, coming from countries like Venezuela and Colombia, where there's lots of political oppression. So they're coming for freedom and asylum, but they're living outside of police stations, in tents, or just in sleeping bags, and it's getting really cold. So, for us, it's like, okay, is there something that we can be doing, or ideas that we can be sharing with our political leaders or church leaders, or, what are some solutions that we could be working towards? So I think if we can take these films and start learning and just trying to make the world a little bit better, and, learn, grow, love people, love our neighbor as ourselves, I think that would go a really long way. And with that, we will press stop on this episode of Mixed Take. Thanks for joining us on this episode. Join us next time as we continue this journey in the far stretches of the universe. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or wherever you tune into your podcast. Also, head over to worldoutspoken.com, a site preparing the Mestizo Church for cultural change, where you'll find information on consulting services, thought-provoking blog posts, and other great podcasts such as The Feature, Questions from the Pew, La Ventanita, the Mestizo podcast, the show for the mixed people of the mixed church. Also, head over to worldoutspoken.com and order some cool merch. There's hoodies, shirts, stickers, mugs, all kinds of good stuff.
There is. Yes. Also, guess what? We're on social media. We've always been on social media.
True.
But you can follow us on Instagram at Mixed Take. And sometimes we'll even put Facebook, if you've heard of that before, Facebook polls out there. So look out and vote. You can also follow me at Rob Rib on Twitter X, whatever we call it these days, and follow Donnie at Donnie Jack, DONIJAC. Special thanks to our producer Rich Hurtado, putting together stellar video and audio stuff for us. Also, thanks to Ricky Padilla and the World Outspoken crew.
Yes.
We hope that you will join us again as we dive into the nerdy part of the culture influencing entertainment. And until next time, cut.
It's a wrap.